Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm Steven Conway. With me, of course, is Jeremy Finestone. We have a special guest you see there on our screen, Scott Edwards, one of the very top Joshi experts in the world, and that is because the news came in that everyone's been talking about. It does affect New Japan. We're going to talk about it. The firing of Rossy Ogawa by Stardom. It has been a firestorm of a week. It seems like every time we do a show, there is some sort of big time executive that's no longer in their previous position. Just since we've been on the air here, it's got to more TNA. Now it's Rossy. There's just so much to get into. And we knew that we needed to bring in the top gun for this one. And that's Scott Edwards to talk about Stardom, which is, of course, owned by the same company that owns New Japan, Bushiroad. And these two companies have been trying in various forms to work together for a couple of years and will continue to going forward. Therefore, Stardom news, it's New Japan news as well. And it's going to have an effect on our company here, New Japan. So, Scott, I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining us. Jeremy, it's just been one of these weeks where it seems like every time you refresh a news page, you're seeing something pretty important happen in the business. So, Jeremy, we're going to get to Scott in just a second.
Sure.
What were your thoughts when you initially saw that all this was coming crashing down on, I guess it was this past Sunday?
I think the first reaction was, oh, what? And then just trying to parse what everything meant. And there were select people like Scott on X and Blue Sky, whatnot, kind of putting out like the flames of exactly what wasn't happening and what was happening. And, very quickly we had some of our intrepid journalism in the wrestling field saying, it's going right away to WWE. And you're just like, cool, that's helpful. And then it turned out that wasn't the case, but there was a component to it that people had jumped to conclusions. So it was a lot of confusion, a lot of like, I need for this dust to settle before I have an opinion about anything. And I didn't say anything on Twitter. I didn't say anything anywhere. And I'm just like, I'm just going to just sit back and watch and see where we get. And I feel like now we're in a very like clear idea of what's going to happen moving forward. And I'm glad we have Scott here to replay the timeline, give clarity to everything, and basically separate the bullshit, the news from the noise. And that makes me happy.
We're going to get to that in just a moment. We're going to be talking about that decision to fire Rossy Ogawa and what it means going forward. We're also going to look at the two Corakuen Hall shows, The Road to New Beginning, which provided some news and some angles that we're going to get into. And then we'll look ahead at the New Beginning in Osaka, Fantastica Mania. There's a lot to do in the next hour and a half here. But let's get into this Rossy thing now, Scott, because we knew that he wasn't happy. That had been made public. They had switched the person at Bushiroad who was in charge of Stardom a few months ago, and they put Taro Okada in. Okada is also a part-time director to Hiroshi Tanahashi in New Japan. So when that happened, it looked like, okay, maybe they're going to try hard to get a little bit better synergy going between New Japan and Stardom and all that. What we apparently didn't know publicly, although there were rumblings and things, but was that Rossy had already decided to leave Stardom at that point. So what can you tell us a little bit about this? There was a switch in Bushiroad, but it wasn't enough to keep Rossy happy. Wasn't happy with interference and booking decisions. Like, can you walk us a little bit through how this soured?
Yeah, I think the best way to put it is when you don't let the booker be the booker, people start to get angry. And that's really what we watched in the past year plus happen in Stardom. Rossy Ogawa was no longer making the final calls on who's to be champion and who's to be in this tournament and that, like so on and so forth. We saw that time and time again. There's been rumblings, like never full on confirmation on certain things, but Dave did a really good job of kind of quickly recapping that the night of. Like you said, the resignation, which was not public knowledge at the time, had already been in, but the firing of course, is the bigger story now. So that was at about Sunday night that Stardom dropped the news that they were firing Rossy Ogawa. And, if you read the message, it pretty much is like, all right, how do we muddy this guy on the way out? Right? Because ultimately, like, they were on their way to a pretty fair split. He was going his way. They were going to go their way on February 18th, I believe, which was just a regular house show, but that would be his final date. And then they used the idea of poaching, which is a very big deal, obviously, which that's when the chaos started, because people said, huh? What? Poaching for what? Right? And then you follow that with the report from Sean Ross, or it wasn't a report, actually. He has said it was just speculation that he heard from multiple companies that he may be on his way to WWE. So people instantly started thinking, oh, he's trying to bring Stardom wrestlers to WWE, right? People know that Julia is on her way there. So in their mind, they're thinking, oh, he's trying to bring this one and that one. And who
Kyrie, and Kyrie went there.
Right.
So, did Rossy funnel Kyrie back to WWE?
Exactly. Ultimately, it became, let's paint the worst possible picture for Rossy. And it worked. It really did. A lot of people just started mocking the guy. Doesn't help when we have a guy that has no idea that leads another company start saying things. I'm not saying his name. You connect those dots. And ultimately, it just became this absolute storm that night. But I do appreciate what Dave did with the subscriber exclusive report, which is in like, it wasn't bolded, but it pretty much read in bold to me. He is not going to WWE.
And I want to say hello to a couple of our viewers, listeners. Colin is here. Tyler Morin is here. Yeah, glad you're here live too, Tyler. And Colin mentions, like, that's what I said. Who's he poaching for? Well, it turns out that what they were trying to do was painted that he was poaching for himself, because the idea that Rossy is now going to go forward and start his own promotion. And I think what Stardom was trying to do was heal Rossy in the eyes of the fans by saying, here's this guy that's trying to take away your Stardom people away from you.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to wreck Stardom, and by God, you're a Stardom fan, so boo on Rossy Ogawa for trying to poach talent to go to his thing and take him away from Stardom. And I think that's how they tried to do it. I think that might end up really backfiring on him. But the bottom line is, some people are going to go and some people aren't. Julia has basically said publicly now that she is going to go with Rossy and help him start his new promotion before she goes to WWE. There will certainly be others. We don't know specifically who. And as far as we go, Scott, let's fill us in on this real quickly before the Stardom.
I have a quick question about
okay, sir.
Process, right? Real quick.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between Rossy Ogawa telling people he's not going to be continuing with the company and telling the talent that, and then the talent being like, well, if you're not going to be here, I'm not going to be here. And then the Stardom like management like trying to renegotiate and like realizing, oh, this person's not going to be coming back. This person's not going to be coming back. They immediately jump to a poaching accusation when it's simply, I'm not going to be here if Rossy's not going to be here. Is that more of like how it kind of played out and like the one aspect? Because that was kind of the question I had. Because you can jump to that conclusion from just people being like, no, I'm not resigning. And it's, you know what, like, take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, Rossy kind of backs up what you're saying with his Tokyo Sports interview. He had said that, people came to me when I said I was leaving. Like they, and he also adds that people had come to me before I even said I was leaving, kind of like, I'm not going to resign. I don't want to be here, type things like that. And if you have followed any of my many tweets of certain people's talking about Rossy, including former Stardom general manager Fuka, who was a big part of the company. She helped start the company. She was the head trainer until 2018. She had said very specifically, what Rossy always has done is try to protect his wrestlers. That's the one thing he does. So ultimately, if you take that and you take what he's saying, it does sound like he was trying to almost give these wrestlers an avenue to go towards if they didn't want to stay in this company that is no longer really being run by him. And I'll keep saying this to people. I'm going to do a big episode about the whole situation timeline, because there's been a lot and there's going to be a lot more. And I have no idea when, I really don't know when this is going to end. Like, everyone keeps saying March, it's going to go longer than March. It's not just March, right? Because one of the things that I keep pointing to is the legal threats that Dave specified. That told me that not everyone's leaving at the same time. That's pretty much what that said to me. So even if people want to leave, it's going to be a long process. We don't know, obviously, when this new promotion is starting, but Jeremy, I think you are right in that if Rossy isn't leaving, to other wrestlers who are loyal to him and want to work for him, that may have just led to them saying, "Oh, then we want out."
Well, see, the other thing is from Bushiroad's side of it, and I'm not trying to advocate either side. I'm just saying here's going to be the fight. What Jeremy said is what Rossy is saying. Like, I said I was going to leave, and there are other people who are saying, "Well, I'm coming with you. You made me. I'm going with you, buddy." You know, the other side of his Bushiroad is going to say that what Rossy was doing was saying, "Hey, psst, I know you're under contract. Don't sign with them. Don't sign with them. I got my own thing coming. Come with me later." And that's how they're going to portray the poaching idea. Now, we've talked about it before, the contracts. In New Japan, of course, most of the contracts, especially for the Japanese, are year to year, not multi-year, and they end in February-ish. And in Stardom, there's a similar structure where most, except with one key exception that we know of, Mayu Iwatani, who has a movie coming out, so they've signed her a little longer term to make, to help promote that movie that they produced. Most of them are on year-to-year deals as well, then.
I believe so.
Okay.
My belief is that it's exactly like the New Japan system for a lot of the wrestlers. Mayu's different. I'm sure the higher talent are different. But I believe it is the same premise. I would be very shocked if the company run under the same company was handled very differently. Mayu's obviously a different case. She's
the movie, right?
She signed on longer because of the movie. She's also likely the highest paid, if I had to guess. Like, she's the top dog for a reason. So it's very different with her, but I believe it's handled the same way as New Japan contracts.
And Dunstan has a question here. Dunstan Williams, glad to see you, Dunstan, here for Scott. And if you have questions for us or Scott, please show them in the chat. We'll put them up. He says, wasn't the whole point of removing Harada, that's the former Bushiroad executive in charge of Stardom, and getting a less intensive schedule, the change he wanted? Well, again, there's a couple of different things going on here. That could have been a part of it, right, Scott? And then the other part is the interference, where he would want to push somebody and they would basically change it or say, no, you can't make that person the champion. So we had we had things going on multiple levels, correct?
Yeah, from my understanding, I believe Dave had added this to the report. Nothing changed really when they replaced Harada with Okada in terms of butting in and making booking decisions in the end, which I believe is the biggest problem of them all. Because again, I can't stress this enough, if you're not going to have your booker book, then what's the point? That's why he's there.
I got a quick timeline of your tweets if we want to pull them up, and then we can just kind of run through the trail of events here.
Sure.
So there you go. That was of course from the 5th, and that was Okada say he's received several inquiries and multiple wrestlers will be leaving Stardom in the coming months or are currently thinking about it, per Tokyo Sports. And so he admits, and then another one says, also from the 5th, Rossy admits to a new organization, said the wrestlers came to him not wanting to stay with Stardom. So that just kind of got into the whole idea that Stardom sort of positioning Rossy as the heel, as the reason some fans might not be seeing their favorites moving forward.
Notably, he did confirm a new promotion, which I think is the biggest part of it all. He didn't shy away and be like, oh, we'll see. No, he said, well, if you're going to, it read to me as if you're going to say I'm doing, because Okada had said that was the expectation, was a new promotion in the Tokyo Sports article. So there was quick confirmation right after that.
And then I added these two right here, which is some more motivational mindsets about what's going on. No matter what it says on the marquee, it's the wrestlers who embody the spirit of what Stardom truly is and always will be. Support them, whatever their decisions may be moving forward. It's all about, like, there's a lot of discussion about who's going where and who's gonna be on what side. And at the end of the day, there are still wrestlers that we want to support, and it's likely not going to matter where they go because you're a fan of the wrestler, and having two promotions could just be better for all. And then Sanahiro Takagi told Tokyo Sports he believes Rossy Ogawa's exit from Stardom and decision to make a new company is a good thing, believing it will make the Joshi market bigger.
Which I 100% agree with. There's a lot of ways to look at this. Obviously, the Stardom as we know it is crumbling in many ways, but they're not going to go away. I know Okada had thrown that into that Tokyo Sports report of like, oh, you know, if everyone leaves, we'll have to shut it down. They're not going to do that. Like, it's just like, hey, how do we make Rossy look a little worse? You know, you lose the company that you love. But I think the big conversation for a long time in the Joshi world, especially the past couple of years, is that Stardom is so far ahead that competition didn't exist, and it kind of became like, all right, then who are they trying to beat? And it came down to, well, they're not going to beat New Japan, and they're beating everyone else, right? Like, in terms of numbers and stuff, right? There was a belief that Stardom was probably the number 2 promotion now in Japan. I think that was perfectly acceptable. So now we have competition. It just might be the worst possible person to be competition against, truthfully.
And we're going to get to some of the questions that are coming in here in a little bit. But I also want to talk about, you mentioned how Stardom was so far ahead. It's intriguing in that the reason Rossy sold to Stardom, or to Bushi Road, sold Stardom to Bushi Road, was so that it could get an infusion of cash that he didn't quite have. One of the reasons he wanted to grow it, make it bigger, and that was going to be the mechanism of somebody that had all that, the machinery behind it. I mean, it's an entertainment conglomerate, and it worked. And again, I go back to the biggest example of this. Stardom is the only company in the world who grew during the pandemic. That's it. That's the list. Stardom, world wondering Stardom. And so it did work. It's the interference, though, and we mentioned some of the things like the silly stuff, the zombies coming out at the Halloween show, some of the other stuff. Was that the stuff that was being pushed upon him, or that's some of the stuff you're talking about? And then flat out changing his champion. I always wondered, when you always say, I want autonomy, right? You know, and that's the deal. It's autonomy, but it never works that way. If somebody owns the company, they get final say. And I can just imagine someone coming up to Rossy and just saying, well, this person sells 5 more t-shirts a show, so they need to be the champion. And Rossy going, oh, we're trying to build this other person. I did 5 more t-shirts, Rossy. It's right here on this spreadsheet. And, you know,
Rossy's, what has always made Stardom and that being Rossy so great has been his ability to build new stars. And like you said here, if you're going to the person you can believe in easiest to help attendance or so on, right? You guys see it in New Japan. That Tetsuya Naito is the world champion right now. Like, you go back to the people that, you know, help you along the way. That's just not how he books. And I think that is probably part of the reason. Now, who's the champion when he's leaving? Someone brand new. So there's also that conversation to be had, you know, somewhere down the line. There's still a lot to learn about what decisions were and weren't his, but by the end, it really felt like nothing was probably his decision anymore. That's why, especially once he gave the notice. I mean, you can connect the dots, who's making who champion and so on and so forth. But yeah, I think ultimately what people will quickly learn is, and this is kind of on the positive tweet side that I had, is I already see a lot of people kind of turning on one side or the other. Right. And I think that's the wrong way to look at this. Competition makes everyone better. And there's going to be wrestlers that stay with Bushi Road because, hey, you know what? That's a really nice paycheck. That's a really nice paycheck, right? And there's going to be some wrestlers that leave with Rossy who are, 1, loyal, 2, want to be part of this new thing, and 3, there may be opportunity. If there's one bad thing about Stardom, it was too packed. in terms of this person needs to be champion, this person needs to be champion, so on and so forth. And they were never going to be champion.
And everybody was right. Was right. All those people deserve to be champions of some company. It's an interesting point, Scott, because there are going to be some very difficult decisions, and that's a very obvious thing to say. But if you're on top with Stardom, do you leave and hope that you're still on top with Rossy? Or, and I mean, I keep thinking about some of these people that are upper mid card. And one that I was, a couple that I kicked around, I'm not going to name it, but picture somebody that's second or third in a faction with Stardom. Sure. They really have to roll the dice. Do you go off with Rossy at the new thing and hope you can become the number one? Or do you kind of sit back and wait to see if the people ahead of you in Stardom leave, and then you can ascend to the top spot in Stardom? Yeah. You got Stardom, which is an established one with a big company backing it, or Rossy's thing, and who knows, you gotta be, these people have to be thinking, and by the way, I do this because if worrying were in the Olympics, I would captain Team USA. But if
captain anxiety over here,
oh my God. But if I leave to go to Rossy's thing and it doesn't get traction, can I come back? Or do I have to go to Ice Ribbon or Diana, or who's going to take, this is a hard call. There is no obvious answer here.
Well, there are some people that have made a decision, and I'm going to show you now.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, Scott. Who has spoken publicly and kind of told us what they were doing?
Well, Tam Nakano made it very clear what she was doing. She didn't hesitate. She is the only one that I think has said full out, I am staying with Stardom. Micah has kind of hinted at it. Obviously, she showed a lot of frustration, and rightfully so.
She seemed pretty upset that her big night was overshadowed.
For the second time in a row.
Yes. So she's got reason to be mad at both sides, right? Because obviously the pay-per-view crashed when she won the title, and that's a reason to be mad at Bushiroad. And then the night that she has her first successful title defense, it ends up being all about Rossy Ogawa. So there is understandable frustration on hers, and I do assume she's going to be the one that stays here. Obviously, she is the world champion, and there's a reason she's in that spot. But what I will stress is that with what Steven was saying, this is going to be a long process. Everyone's expecting this mass exodus come March based off of what Dave had reported. I don't expect 16 wrestlers to leave. I'm sure it's going to be a handful, and they're going to go with Rossy, and that's going to be the promotion. And then come next year, maybe, because there are contracts here at hands. Oh, that promotion is doing good. Oh, I love working for Rossy. Oh, I'm going to go there.
Or it doesn't, and the decision's made for you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I think some people play it safe and just kind of, let's see how this plays out.
The only person I will stress that is the one that I would bet on leaving is the one that can't, and that we know of, and that is Mayu Iwatani. There is no one more loyal to that man than her. It's the reason this movie is essentially being made. He's the one that took her in and helped her pretty much grow. And her tweet was the most telling. She was like, I can't think of any nice words to say right now, so I'm just not going to say anything. And that's clear frustration. Now she's gonna be a world-class worker and represent with the IWGP
company
title.
Woman until she doesn't have to be a company woman anymore.
Yeah, and that's my belief. I don't know for sure, but that is my pure belief. If there's anyone that I'm betting on, besides Julia has made it perfectly clear.
Yeah, we'll get to Julia in a minute.
Dave has also made it clear for us. But if there's anyone that I would guess, it would be Mayu, just because of that's true family loyalty. She's been in Stardom since day one with him.
Well, literally, the Stardom's first show was her first match. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Listen to Stardom Road, by the way, if you want to know the history of Stardom. That's Scott's podcast, another one of Scott's podcasts that's really helped me with a lot of Stardom history right there. And it talked about he did an entire episode on the very first show and how a terrified looking Mayu Iwatani was having her very first match, and there's quite a growth from that scared woman to one of the greatest of all time now. So. Yeah, there's just going to be a lot. I do expect that a lot of people are going to take that wait and see approach. And here, let's go into this now too. Taro Okada still in charge of that. We know that they are finally doing what we hoped they would do with the IWGP Women's Championship, which is defend the title on big New Japan shows. We're going to be seeing Mina Shirakawa.
I didn't even need a big one. I just needed one.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. After what was kind of the Tam Nakano match with and with Mayu at Wrestle Kingdom, that ended up being a delivery system for Mercedes Moné, which is about the only reason that match happened. So, now we're going to be getting Shirakawa and Mayu Iwatani and Sapporo. We hope, as New Japan fans, to see more of this kind of thing going forward. But with that in mind, Scott, Dunston's asking this: should they have wrestlers like Tam or Yuji Nagata, who has shown a lot of interest in Stardom, usually turns up at their big events, take over for the booking? My impression is that they're going to roll the dice with, have Okada and I'm blanking on the name. You probably know it.
Oyama,
but they're going to be doing it going forward, as they may have been doing it for the last few months.
Yeah, I think long term they're gonna probably get themselves another booker, because they currently just have two people in there that aren't doing it.
Seems like a good idea.
I would say so. They have a Cork in less than a week now, and there's not a single thing booked for that show, not a single match.
Yeah.
And listen, I get it. If I had to guess, Rossy is still probably making these house show cards, based off of how long it's taking them to put these together. Making decisions and making cards, very different.
I definitely thought it was interesting timing that the IWGP Women's Championship match was made and announced and set the night that they decided, you know what, we're actually going to move away from you now.
Yeah,
and it was not a belt that Rossy was actively promoting and spending a whole lot of time on. And it was curious that they decided that they were going to use the Sapporo show to do this. And now we have a situation with Julia with the women's strong title, trying to figure out exactly when and where they're gonna either vacate or she's gonna do the job to somebody. And who?
Sure feels like it's gonna be a pretty nothing show that she's gonna drop this belt on at this stage.
Yeah, because she's not coming to Chicago. Initially she was gonna come to Windy City Riot, and now she's not.
Yeah, she's not making it to that.
No.
She's got 4 challengers right now. 3 of them are currently in Japan. I would guess Nanae Takahashi is not going to be one to beat her.
What if they brought in Stephanie Vecchier on one of the CMLL Fantastic Amazing?
See, they should. That's what I thought.
They should just do it.
That's not.
That's what I thought they should have done anyways. It just made too much sense. Like, CMLL
the last
is already
night of Fantastic Amazing. Just throw the match on there at the very end.
Yeah, like why not? Because I think Vecchier should be the champion anyways. Truthfully, I think the flexibility of what you can do with her would be very interesting. Because keeping the belt just in Japan wasn't the purpose of that strong belt, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, Julia is a fun one. This is gonna be a fun couple months.
Yeah.
It was, it's funny. It was gonna be a fun couple months anyways, because everyone's like, what are we doing here with her?
Well, and the real rumor mill started on Sunday night before the Stardom show, or before the Rossy news, because NXT had that promo about the 3 faces, and there was a large contingent that immediately jumped to May.
Wow.
May is down the line. That's later this year. It could be Julia. And then if you start thinking about it, it's probably going to be a little bit later that Julia is becoming to WWE.
Well, it's Okada, right? Is that what everyone said?
Okay.
Once Julia was declined, everyone's like, oh, then it's Okada, clearly. If I see Okada in an NXT ring ever in my life, someone's going to pay.
The number of cryptic videos NXT does, I think it's just funny that all this is being pinned, because they do this for people that have not had matches yet.
There's only one match that Okada needs to have.
So everybody needs to kind of cool their tits on that one, because we don't know. Yeah. They have done Julia. They did these videos for Wendy Chu. Okay, guys. I mean, and Wendy's a talented worker, not a big star. But very, very talented wrestler, but not a big star. They do these videos for everybody.
If we're going to fantasy book this one thing, there's only one match Okada needs to have. And at one of the shows, he faces Ilya Dragunov. He beats Ilya Dragunov. He goes right up to the main roster. But that'll be a hell of a match if they ever do it, as Okada and Ilya Dragunov.
So here's one for you, Scott, from Colin. He mentioned, do you think Nanai will help out with the booking? So throwing Nanai out there with Tam or Yuji Nagata to be a possible Stardom booker.
I doubt it. I feel like it would be Rossy that would bring in Nanai originally. So that's the relationship.
Yeah, they worked together to begin Stardom in the first place after what All Japan Women, right? That was where they first
unless
together.
Bushiroad wants to toss some money at Nanai. No, I don't think so. I think Yuji Nagata is an interesting shout, truthfully.
That was a great one. That was a
Yeah,
great
that's a very interesting idea.
Because he has shown interest. I've seen people throw around Liger because Liger's been on commentary before for their shows. Tam can do it when she's not active. I'm a little scared what that would look like when she is active.
She's working both sides of the aisle.
Here Youth believes that vignette was for Boa and Dante Chen. That's a good point. And I'd bet money that Okada is AEW bound. If I had to bet the house, yeah, I think so. Also,
the house always
we don't know. We don't know.
Wait, isn't Chen Chinese? Mm-hmm. That would be a Japanese proverb.
Do you think NXT?
Do you think Shawn Michaels knows the difference?
I think in 2024 they're a little more aware of that. Just a little.
Shawn Michaels is aware of that.
I think coached in a presser.
I'm not sure
I think performing better than Triple H in a presser actually might have developed.
I wasn't ready for NXT talk, but here we are.
I think Shawn Michaels believes Japan is a city in China. Like if you ask Shawn Michaels what's Japan, I think he says it's a city in China. I don't think he knows.
This show is going to be all over the place because
that's like when Triple H won
the MLW, the NXT. There is a sprawling set of fallout for everything that happens.
Yeah, they're definitely.
I liked it better when nothing was happening to my promotion.
Oh man, you could come in, talk to New Japan. Maybe there were a couple extra shows you'd have to watch, but you're just running down the line here talking about the Magic. Oh no, let's go deep into Stardom. Let's recap 2 MLW matches. Let's talk TNA and more Fallout and how that's going to affect New Japan. This was not all in the plan a couple of days ago.
No, it's just amazing. I was mentioning it before we went on the air. If you took New Japan, WWE, Stardom, and TNA and said that the longest tenured person in their position of power in the company is Hiroshi Tanahashi as president of New Japan. Everybody else has somebody newer than that running the show right there. I just said you were absolutely nuts, but there you go. Dunston's asking, if you're Bushiroad, what would you do in order to retain talent? There's a couple of obvious ones. There's money, but if you're budget conscious, I mean, you try to convince them that this is, who knows what's going to happen with him? Is he going to get any kind of distribution? Is he going to get any kind of video? Fear of the unknown works in their favor, right?
You have to remain consistent. You just have to stay the course and not feel like you're flailing to the talent. It just has to be a confident hand steering the ship. Doesn't matter who it is, as long as it's a competent and confident hand.
Yeah.
Dunston also asked, do you think this shows that Ghetto could be removed as head booker? What, to go to Stardom?
No, I think he just needs to get or
to get canned
as booker. Ghetto to get out of there.
I have been making that joke for days. I was like, I don't see Bushiroad bothering Gato when they should have like 5 times in the past 5 years, but here we are.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. I'm not trying to say that Ghetto's doing his very best work right now. I don't think he is, but I do think that they're going to have Ghetto shepherd us through whatever we joked about this, that this tour is called New Beginning, but the actual New Beginning will be after New Beginning, because this is the remnants of whatever the plan was. They've had to change a lot, but this is the remnants of what the plan was at the beginning of the year. After New Beginning in Sapporo, I think is when we're actually going to get whatever they've decided to do with all these departures. And I think Ghetto's going to get a shot there.
Messy.
Yeah. And on the Stardom side from Hiryu, I hope the wrestlers are taken care of. The booking makes sense, and that Natsupoi wins the white belt. Well, we all love the Murder Pixie, don't we? And then one from Dunston. Scott, do you think the new schedule and new bookers, that the Mike reign could be in jeopardy in terms of impact for the company?
You mean the Micah reign could be in jeopardy?
That's what it looks like here.
I think the Micah reign will be fine. Micah I think Micah's really part of this new age that they're pushing. I think she's going to be fine. But listen, they do got to prove a lot, right? They got to prove this new schedule because they may be getting paid a lot of money, but their bodies were going through hell last year.
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
only so much money can make up for, months and months and months and months of having to rehab and things like that, which some wrestlers still are. Natsupoi not back.
No.
Koguma's not back. A few wrestlers are not back. I think that will be a big part of it. Like there's still a lot for Bushiroad to prove because they're the ones that made the schedule. Tony Khan, newsflash, they're the ones that put the pay-per-views on the days you wanted people.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality. So there's a lot on both sides that needs to be proven. Yeah, Bushiroad's got the money. That is undeniable. But they got a lot of brand new things in hand that they got to figure out, and we'll have to see what Rossy and Julia and company do. I'll add Julia in because we know that one.
It is
probably the last time we had this conversation.
Yeah. It's fascinating too because boy, this new batch of rookies for Stardom are as good as we've seen in a really long time too. So Yuzuki, Rana, and if what we're hearing about the interference is true, then this group, Hanako and all that, they're more used to the Bushiroad people than they are to Rossy having the final say in things. If this interference goes back as long as we've heard, so many layers to this, and that it's a question that Colin mentioned earlier. Is if Rossy starts this new promotion, looks like he is, where does it get seen? It's not going to be on Stardom World, obviously. Does it go to Wrestle Universe? TJPW is on that. Doesn't mean they can't, but he has to find a way to get it seen by a wider audience than just doing house shows, and that's going to be probably, Scott, his biggest obstacle, right? I mean, it's just to find a place to distribute this and make some money off it.
That's always the scary part, but the indies of all indies in the world of Joshi can make me see shows, so he'll be fine. I'll remind everyone that the indies that probably don't have the same, sponsorships that I'm sure he'll have, and because listen, Rossy's got all the connections he's going to need. That's the reality here. Like he has been doing this forever. He has been doing that. I sang his praises and why he should be in the Observer Hall of Fame a few months ago. It's because he's been doing this since All Japan Women's. He did it for Arceon, which didn't last long, but he did do that. Then of course he did it for Stardom. He's got all these relationships. Things are gonna happen. I think it'll be shown. Like there's way too much noise to be happening right now for like him to just like have whatever his first show is whenever it is and no one can see it. Like, come on, we know Julia's gonna be there, so like it has to be seen whenever that happens, and that's like it's scary. Like that's the big thing for people. Like, am I gonna be able to see this? Like, I'm scared about that alone. I was like, I'm sure one way or the other we'll be able to see it, even if it's like streamed on YouTube. We'll be able to see it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating, and Rossy is woven within the fabric of Joshi wrestling all the ways. I mean, there's been Joshi wrestling almost as long as there's been men's wrestling in Japan overall. But since like the beauty pair in the 70s, it's been a different level. And Rossy was part of that late 70s. I believe he started as a photographer, according to what Dave Meltzer said, but he worked his way into the office. And Scott, if I'm not mistaken here, at one point he helped organize the All Japan Women's Office. Like they didn't even necessarily know all their history of title changes and things, like they just weren't organized, and he helped whip that into shape. And really, I'm not sure
he helped a lot with the Crush Gals, which I don't know. Newsflash, everyone, big deal. I was gonna say big deal.
The biggest thing that ever happened in Joshi wrestling for sure, the Crush Gals, and everything afterwards is owed to that in a way. I mean, none of this happens without the Crush Gals and things, and so and he was a big part of all that. So I mean, he's part of the fabric of the whole thing.
If you ever seen the Wrestlers episode or whatever it's called on Vice of Stardom, there's this great clip of Rossy, because they did an episode on Stardom, and Rossy's just like, he knew how far ahead Stardom was from everyone else. He's found a chip on his shoulder for the first time in a long time, and I think that's a scary thing. And if he gets
it's a good thing,
and good. And I'll continue, and I'll just say this before we move on: all he needs is one or two big stars. That's all you need
Yeah.
to make it.
Because he can make the others.
Yes, that's what he does.
Here's a big one, Scott. Do you see Soray joining Stardom now?
I would see Sari definitely wrestling in one of these two companies
Yes.
by the end of the year.
I was going to say, are you sure it's Stardom of the two where she's going to go? I'm not.
If she doesn't have to sign, because seems like she don't want to sign, it definitely seems possible either way, and that's a big get for whoever gets her. I'll keep saying that.
One of the best in the world.
You know, who's the person she keeps wanting to wrestle? Who did Julia just write about in Tokyo Sports? Or no, sorry, Shoe Pro? Sorry. Where's Julia going? Math starts to add up here, folks.
No, Cerie's been in WWE, and we saw what they did there. So we don't need it. Let's do it. Let's do it before that. Let's do it for Rossy if we're going to do it right there. So. Oh man. All right. So
God, thanks for the Stardom talk, man.
Yeah, I got to do it again tomorrow, so it's fine.
We're gonna keep on with the New Japan talk if there's nothing else. But you're welcome to stay as long as you like. If you have to get going, you can just leave and disappear. And we just keep on talking.
You can do the mic drop now, or do you want to stick around and talk New Japan?
I'll talk a little New Japan for a little bit. I haven't talked New Japan in a while.
We'll do the whole. Thank you for listening and watching on Fight Game Media YouTube. We have many, many shows on this network. We have many, many programs on this network. On the YouTube, we have the Dynamite show on Wednesday night. We will have a reaction show to the WWE press conference in just a few hours with Garrett Gonzalez and Paul Fontaine. And we also have Power Bomb shows on Sunday mornings. In addition to that, our radio shows go Monday through Friday. Right now, we have The Boom, In the Clinch, The Dynamite Show, the 5-Star Joshi Show, and I am blanking on one right now. The Wrap. Oh, gosh, The Wrap.
The Wrap. It's a big time for The Wrap.
And then we have bonus shows. We will be live on Monday with the reactions to the February 11th Wargames style Okada Tanahashi big match. And if you like this content and more, please like and subscribe, click, share, aggregate everything that Scott Edwards does, myself, Steven Conway, everyone here at Fight Game Network. We appreciate everything and all the support. And we'll take it from there.
Yeah, we do indeed. And if you're listening as a podcast, remember to just give us a review, give us a 5-star rating. All that stuff helps people find the show. And more important, if you have a New Japan curious friend, for the love of God, word of mouth is the best way to do all this stuff. So let them know that we are here. We had 2 shows in Corakuen Hall over the weekend. They've been doing house shows on either side of these Corakuen Hall shows, but I've been keeping an eye on the results. It's a bunch of preview tags. I'm sure they were perfectly fine as live shows. Not a lot of canon storyline involved in that. Pretty much your basic house show preview tag. So we're going to go into these Corakuen Hall shows where we did have some news and angles. So on Sunday, February 4th, Corakuen Hall, 1,433 people, so a strong crowd there. It's down a little on Monday, and we'll get to why. But in this one, we had the show opening with an angle. And it was the War Dogs beating up Jeff Cobb. That Jeff Cobb had been in the lobby where you come up in the elevators to the 5th floor there to get to Corakuen Hall doing the signings. That's where all the tables are and stuff like that. And they beat him up, drug him out in front of the crowd because Jeff has a legit quad injury. So far, he is still booked for Osaka. But they did want to put it in everybody's heads that he is compromised. But that injury is legit. That's a real thing. It wasn't just a worked injury there. So putting a little bit of doubt in about Cobb as we go toward this match. So that was would that surprise you, Jeremy, that they just came out of that with that right out of the gate?
They've done that recently with a couple of little injury angles. So it was like, oh, yeah, they're going back to this old gem. Sounds good to me. And, that was pretty much it. These are the equivalent of the go-home shows before the pay-per-view, if the best way I can put it. Is like, not crazy stuff is happening, but there are some things here that are getting you even more hyped up for the big show on Sunday. And we're going to talk about the cool things that got you hyped up.
Yeah, they have added some layers to this. So there was a 10-man tag match that you see on the screen right there, and this was the House of Torture. We had Evil, Ren Narita, Sho Kanemaru, and Yujiro Takahashi with Dick Togo. They faced El Desperado, Bolton Oleg, Shota Umino, Togi Makabe, and Yoshihashi. Just under 10 minutes for this one. basic stuff. It ended with an everything is evil on Makabe for the win, which again just shows you how different Boltin Oleg is being booked as a young lion. That they had a young lion in the match and they beat Makabe. But Oleg looks good in his spots. He does all those power moves there where he like picks up the guy like he's doing the Russian clubs and all that stuff. And in the end, for reasons known only to themselves, they had Evil spray paint the Never title black. So he spray painted the Never Openweight title black for reasons we're unclear of. But there it is, and they did it, and I guess that's supposed to upset Shota Umino, and pretty sure you can just kind of get some paint remover and get rid of that. But there it is. That was the angle they did to start this one off and set us on the road to Evil versus Shota.
The hidden gem in this match were the double team moves between Desperado and Boltin Oleg. There was this like moment between the two of them. Like Desperado like, what? Look at you. Yeah, okay, let's go do this. And then they started beating up for a couple seconds. And it was just one of those watching Oleg interact with the New Japan like proper talent instead of just the young lions is incredibly enjoyable.
Yeah, Oleg's funny because he speaks Japanese very well, pretty much fluently, and he's always very humble and he's very quiet. So some people on the New Japan roster have taken it upon themselves to crack him up, either during matches or during interviews. Shane Hayes got him through twerking at him while he was hitting ringside, so he got a grin out of Boltin, which is not easy to do. After that, we had the Bullet Club version, Chase Owens, Kenta, and Taiji Ishimori, that group beating up the Guerrillas of Destiny. And this time it's El Phantasmo and Hikuleo with Tomoaki Honma. And this has just been New Japan trying to convince us that Chase Owens and Kenta have a chance of winning the IWGP tag team titles. They've been beating the Guerrillas of Destiny from pillar to post, mostly by either submitting Jado or pinning him or beating Honma. It's just a way to build up the challengers.
Yeah, this is classic first challengers for the new title holders, and they kind of build up and escalate the difficulty levels for the defending champions. And the difficulty level feels kind of low right now. And if they don't dispatch them, we have bigger problems than just this feud.
Yeah, Kenta's a great wrestler historically. His body just won't let him have the great matches anymore. And so what I'm hoping is that this match is better than the first one, just because hopefully El Phantasmo wasn't sick. That was one thing that kind of drug down that other matches. He wasn't feeling very well, and he powered through the previous title match and then had to take a few days off. So it was Bullet Club stole the belts afterwards, but we'll get to that for when we talk about the fifth. And after that one, we had this one, which was we had Ishii, Yo, Taguchi, and Tanahashi, all of whom seem amazed on the left side of this photo, like they're watching a magic trick against.
Look at Zach open up his jacket.
That's enough. Zach and the rest of TMDK over here. Just very quickly, this was fine. A lot of Taguchi comedy in this one, as everybody else kind of took the rest of the night off. Led to a submission sequence. Zack Sabre Jr. tapped him out. Zach's getting all these tap out wins on his way to swearing he's going to submit Bryan Danielson. So we'll get to more of that when we talk about the Osaka preview. But that's how this one went.
So we got final confirmation that the Never Six-Man titles have been vacated. They're not walking out with them.
No, they aren't. But we actually, I don't know if they've officially announced anything on that. But you're right. Tanahashi and Ishii aren't carrying them anymore when they walk out. So then we had the 903rd meeting, by my count, between Just Five Guys and LIJ.
We ended on 902 last week, so this is actually legit.
Yes, this has Goldberg levels of accuracy here as far as the number goes. We believe it's the 903rd meeting here. Just Five Guys won this one. The only new twist on this was that Uemura got an armbar tap out on Yota Tsuji after a Frankensteiner, and that was to set up what would happen the next night. Both teams. Well, I did enjoy that both teams played this like they were shocked that Uemura had that in his arsenal. Everybody's looking around like, "Holy crap, he tapped the guy out." So there you go. That was that one. And now we had the rest of this is United Empire versus the War Dogs. That's the rest of the card here. So Great Okan defeated Alex Coughlin. Good match. I liked it. But this one was they held back a little bit because they knew what was coming a little bit later. There was a little bit crazier stuff to come in the card. So this was more of a wrestling match than Alex Coughlin usually has as a War Dog. And in the end, it was an eliminator finish. Great O'Khan got the victory.
You hear yourself? Did you hear what you just said?
What did I
This
just
is
say?
more of a wrestling match that this guy had. What is this company? Why is he not having wrestling matches?
Because the War Dogs are brawlers. That's why. I mean, that's
Oh,
really
okay,
what's
okay,
going
okay.
on.
I got you.
The
Okay.
War
No,
Dogs
this
keep getting-
isn't a great O'Khan criticism. This is a Coughlin.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, no, that's not even a Coughlin criticism. It's just that this was most of the War Dogs matches are fighting through the aisles and up and down.
Matches.
Yes, but there was more wrestling in this than Coughlin usually does in his current gimmick. Is all.
I got you.
This felt like what they had laid out for the Cobb match instead, and they just said, "Here, Cobb, these are your spots," and that made it. Yeah.
I just have to say this because I probably won't be around for the preview, but I just want to say this part. My friend told me the other day that Great O'Khan wasn't in the War Games match. I was like, what?
No.
How's he not in the War Games match? And then I looked at it, I was like, oh, they really do hate him. Okay. All right. All right, cool.
They had him booked in the King of Pro Wrestling when the original feud got started, and they just kind of had him in the back pocket in case somebody got hurt, or in order to make sure that the United Empire team, as it is advertised for that one show, is not unified at any point in the 5 weeks run up to it. There was the New Beginning show, or the New Year Dash show where Ospreay was there. I think he's been gone. So he's going to be returning. And so all of these have just been like, Great O'Khan is the proxy member of United Empire that can fit into a match to make sure that the number,
weird.
Even though Bullet Club only has 5 guys and they're not switching anybody out.
Also in the post-match comments, O'Khan has been having little existential thoughts there that seem to indicate that he's preparing for life after United Empire.
I think it's like United Empire preparing for life after United Empire.
Well, that's where we're going with that when we get to the preview. But I'm not convinced there will be one after this. But a couple of guys have kind of dropped hints that they're looking at things past this weekend. So we'll see. After this, now we had the match of the week. Gabe Kidd and Hanare. We talked about how Coughlin wrestled more than usual. This was the knockdown, drag-out brawl that we like. It was my favorite match of the whole weekend. And this was fought all through the orange seats. Kidd dove off the top of the tunnel and was clobbered with a forearm.
Korakuen sprint across the carpet.
Yes. Kidd's chops and Harare's kicks were absolutely brutal in this. And it was great. Just a war. I think Kidd is going to end up getting some votes for the Bruiser Brody Award for Best Brawler next year. And he should, if they still do those awards, don't they, Jeremy? The Brody Award and
I think so. The trajectory for him right now is really good.
Yeah. There were some hard lariat exchanges, knees, chops. There's a lot of hard strikes and stiff work here. And they battered one another until Hanare dove in with a headbutt spot, and it killed him. It killed Kidd. And they laid there for a double knockout finish. Normally, that is a lame finish. In this case, it worked absolutely perfectly. I don't think anyone complained about a double KO finish. 20 minutes, 27 seconds. And go out of your way to see this one if you haven't.
The best way I can compare this match is that I know a lot of people saw that Danielson versus Hechicero match on Collision this past week. I will tell you that this match was just as good in a different way. This was a 20-minute big boy wrestling match, and they beat the hell out of each other. And if you want to watch a great wrestling match and you've already seen the other one, this was the match last week that you need to make time for.
Since you might not be here for the preview, Scott, let's just go ahead and get your opinion on this whole. The United Empire and War Dogs. Is this some sort of heroic comeback from United Empire, or is this, your opinion, is this the War Dogs being fully made as they are, as they wipe out the United Empire? Where do you think it's going in Osaka?
I think the War Dogs have to leave United Empire bloody in the middle of the ring. And finally, because I feel like, I don't know if this is just a me thing, could be, but I feel like the one thing with the War Dogs has been that, like, New Japan waiting to fully commit with them in terms of like just this dominating faction. Yeah, they'll always beat you up before the matches, and we'll have these crazy brawls, but it's the point of going all in on them, make them look dominant as a force, as a faction. And this is your one chance to do it. You're doing a War Games style match, thankfully with one ring. as someone that
I'm so hyped.
gets very annoyed from normal war. Oh, and by the way, I've had to go to the last 2 War Games matches that have happened. So in person, it's a lot different than getting to watch on a nice little TV screen. And One Ring's exciting. I think that's the most exciting part.
Yes.
You're starting with David Finlay and Ospreay, that as you should, and then it'll go from there. And I love the big cage that New Japan has. That's like gives room to everything. But my ultimate feeling is that you're leaving United Empire down and bloody, and that's it for the faction. You're putting them over in the biggest way possible. That has to be the goal here.
Yeah, and I think there's some drama coming with Francesco Akira as well, which we're going to get to in just a little bit. So David Finlay and face Callum Newman next, and this is exactly what you would think. Callum Newman's a good wrestler, but this is all about making Finlay. So Finlay got the win here, sending messages to Ospreay throughout the entire match. And there's not a whole lot to add here, other than there was only one way that match was going to go. The main event on the 4th was an IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title match. It was Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney against Catch 2-2, Francesco Akira and TJP. What we had here was Drilla Maloney working on a torn bicep, which is also a legit thing, not a worked injury. Tanahashi had one not too long ago during the G1 and chose not to have surgery and work through it, which you can do. The muscle's never quite the same when you do that, but nevertheless, you can work through it and heal it without surgery, but it doesn't quite go back the way it was exactly, from what I understand. I thankfully have never torn mine, but I'm not sure I have tried. I don't know if I have biceps to tear. We'll have to look. But in the meantime, these guys definitely do, and Maloney was hurt here and working basically one arm throughout this match. And Maloney ended up spearing Akira into a table on the outside, and it didn't break. Ouch. But a sure sale did the second time. But those tables are fickle in Japan. You never know what you're going to get. This was fast-paced again, some exciting spots like Akira jumping off TJP's back and running into a Connors power slam. Some good stuff. Maloney hit the Drilla Killa on Akira. And then after that, it was mostly the War Dogs trying to get a full clip. And that double team move they do and Catch 2-2, escaping, countering it as best they could. However, the big turning point was Maloney went after Akira with a fork, and Akira was spooked by it, like climbed down off the second rope, kind of hid from him. Connors hit no chaser on TJP, and they ended up landing the full clip on Akira for the title change. Post-match attack brought out Ghetto and Finlay to beat him down. Cobb and Okan came out. They got laid out. They got clobbered with the shillelagh, all kinds of heat. All the heat was there. And by the way, if you had told me that it would be, as an Irish person here, if you told me that it would be pro wrestling that would teach me how to spell shillelagh correctly, I'd have said you were crazy. But I've typed it so many times in my notes, I now know how to spell it. But this was all about heat here. It was all about beating him down. And this whole spooked Francesco Akira makes me think it's going one of two ways. Either he's going to do something ridiculously heroic to overcome that fear, or we might be seeing some sort of either a bailout or a turn by Akira as this all becomes a little bit too much for him because he was terrified of that fork, Jeremy.
I'm curious about where they go with it, but they've definitely given you enough avenues to think that there's more than one way for this to play out. Like Scott said earlier, I think you got to go all the way with Bullet Club with those War Games match. So if Akira is going to have a moment of heroism, it's not going to be enough to turn the tides, but it's still an excellent story moment. So
he might die a hero. You think he might die a hero in this one?
You might have to thread the needle in which you're telling multiple stories at once. But there was a point where I thought, oh, hey, maybe they'll make like Matt Riddle head of United Empire, Jeff Cobb there, or something like that. At this point, I feel like it's just, I've seen the video montage on New Japan World that says United Empire 2020 to 2024. Yeah. You know, they're queuing you up to say goodbye to this stable, and it might just all be for fun, shits and giggles to, you know, like to swerve us, if you will. But if, you know, this is Ospreay's baby. If he's not there, like, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's something they would transfer. Dunstan has a question for Scott. He says, say the War Dogs lose. Suppose. Do you think it's time to pull the trigger on Gabe and push him as the top leader of the group?
I think you definitely start a story between him and Finley, right?
They already have.
Right. I love that promo where he told Gabe to shut the fuck up. And then Gabe walks off pouting. I thought that was so good.
That was like Big Lebowski. Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
I was like, that's the David Finley moment that he needs to be that all the time. I think that's definitely possible. And I think that's definitely an interesting twist, but like that would be, do you end UE by like just giving like a bow and be like, all right, thanks guys. Have a good one.
Like using ice pack and towels and wiping off the blood of like it's been real, guys. So.
Yeah. I think they're going to go down in flames, and whoever's left in New Japan afterwards will have to pick up the pieces and move into something. Off. And again, we've been advocating here for a while, and listen to us, we know what we're talking about. Shingo Takagi, Bishamon, Bolton Oleg, maybe grab Cobb or TJP or something like that and create a new group. That's what I'm hoping for out of this. Now, Dunstan also has this question for you guys. What if New Japan do a tournament for the 6-man tag belts during the Cup tour? I think that's very possible because they'll need something for those shows as it whittles down the New Japan Cup to semifinals, finals. They'll need something else there. And a tournament for 6-man titles. Not a bad idea.
I don't totally love eliminating people in order to like create the field for the never 6-man titles. It feels a little too manufactured of two tournament scenarios. That to me is just like doing a little bit too much at once. And I get doing a tournament, but I would maybe not do a tournament and just start having some matches, some 6-man matches, and just kind of see who advances here or there. Maybe don't call it a tournament, maybe not as official, but something close to that does feel realistic.
Maybe enough 6-man teams get some wins on shows that they just say, these guys have proven themselves as contenders. Yeah, that could be a way to do it too. Definitely. All right, so that was the 4th there. We move on to the 5th. And we'll try to get through this one fairly a little quicker. But this one, we only had 1,015 people. And I thought originally it was a bank holiday. It's not. That bank holiday is this coming weekend, actually, in Japan. So, but it was a work day, and then a big snowstorm hit Tokyo. And I think that cost them a lot of their walk-up that day, what would normally be the walk-up. I think some people just decided to head home and stay out of the snow. So only 1,015 folks there. And you can see that there were some empty seats there. We had the kickoff match, time limit draw between Murashima and Shomakato. After that, we had Bullet Club beating the Gorillas of Destiny again. Not a whole lot. Another post-match attack on the Bullet Club, but that time it backfired. They ended up hitting a chokeslam on Ishimori, and they got the belts back. So a little mini.
There was a funny little gag of them dragging Ishimori's lifeless body out of the ring at the end of this match. Which, if you like a little bit of comedy at the end of these things, that'll be up your alley.
Ishimori is so checked out right now. Just he knows that there's no plans for him, and he is like, I'm going to do some spots, and then I'm going to have fun because this sucks. He's just not figured into anything at the moment, which is why I thought he needs a new coat of paint to get the hell out of Bullet Club. But
I mean, they can't do everything at once, and by April, by May, I feel like we're going to be, once we get into the best of the Super Juniors, a lot of these junior heavyweight guys might be getting that fresh coat of paint that you were talking about.
Yeah, maybe so. After that, we had the 10-man tag, Desperado, Bolton, Shota, and Honma, and Yo. They defeated the House of Torture, the whole fandamly there, pretty much. 8 minutes, 57 seconds. It was fairly quick. Shota beat Yujiro pretty easily with a Death Rider in this one. And again, we're just on the undercard, a little bit of 50-50 booking going into the New Beginning shows.
I was definitely thrown off when I was watching the match listing and realizing there's only 5 matches on this card.
Yeah, that's true. They did make some changes there. There were only 5, but the one went almost an hour.
Oh, that last one was fantastic.
8-man tag, TMDK against Chaos. That's Ishii and Yano, Hiroshi Tanahashi and Makabe. So you had a little bit of the GBH team, Hantai in there. This was a Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr. showcase. Again, we're getting Zack on a roll for his match with Bryan Danielson. And he tapped out Makabe with an armbar this time, but Fujita looked brilliant in this match, including giving Tanahashi a sling blade of his own And Tanahashi even jokes, it's like, how come when everybody does a sling blade on me, it looks better than my sling blade? And I'm like, well, you haven't been able to actually do a sling blade in 4 years there, Hiroshi. Sorry, buddy. But Fujita, boy, if this guy isn't a monster star in the junior heavyweight division, I don't know who is.
I love that guy.
Oh.
Just wanted to say that. I love him.
Is it too early to strap a rocket to him on the Super Juniors this year, or do you wait till next year?
With no Watto?
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, it might be.
Dunson saying Noah and New Japan might as well trade since Ishimori and certain Noah talent aren't doing anything. Yeah, the thing is, I think Jeremy might be onto something, that they might have plans for Ishimori there. That I think that's true. But what'd you say, Scott?
I said, who the hell are you trading for?
Yeah,
junior for junior.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a good trade. I would do that.
Yeah, there you go. So, and then we had this one. This was the United Empire getting a win over the Bullet Club. This time, kind of. But what happened was, this one was all an angle. It was a jump start by United Empire as Bullet Club came out. And within, 1 minute and 11 seconds, to be precise, Finlay just threw a chair in Akira's face for a very early DQ. Connors then speared Marty Asami out of his shoes, beat down on United Empire. They hung Akira with the dog chain. Akira seems to be the focal point here, that the War Dogs are convinced he's the weak point, and they're just beating the crap out of him every single chance they get. Which means he's probably going to be involved in the key moment in this cage match.
It's a great angle. My suspicion was this was more to protect Drilla Maloney from getting hurt even more. So they did a DQ to kind of end the match instead of putting him through the paces. Because we failed to mention it, I think. He tore his bicep. And he wrestled a title match with a torn bicep. And he will continue to wrestle with a torn bicep through War Games and until it is healed. Because he is a crazy person who sees this as an opportunity that he does not want to lose out on.
Yeah, we mentioned that when we were talking about the title match there, that he just kind of did all that one-armed. So after that, we had the Faction Warfare Gauntlet match. So this is the big main event here. And this did end up pretty good. They worked it so that in a way such that nobody very important had to do any jobs, and they were careful about that, unless it was to set up something down the road. So
I really like this match.
The idea was 2 guys go in. There's a 10-minute time limit. If the time limit goes off, both men are eliminated. Or if there's a pinfall, then the next person from the losing team comes in. And then you go until nobody's left. They let it off with the preview of the world title match coming up. So Naito and Sonata wrestled for about 10 minutes, just kind of a little appetizer for everybody. 10-minute draw. Both those guys were out. Nobody hit their finishers. Nobody really got to that point there. So that was all just kind of saving things for us. After that, we had Taka versus Shingo. Guess what happened there? Taka they actually gave Taka quite a bit in this one. Shingo did right there, but he ended up hitting a pumping bomb or a power bomb, and then he tapped him out with an STF. With that brought out Taichi. All right, well, that gave them a reason to get Shingo out of the match without him doing a job. He and Taichi wrestled around for 10 minutes, and then that was out. By the way, Taichi, I noticed him. Jeremy, did you see him at the Sumo Basho?
Yeah.
On the last day.
Getting there, ready forward.
Coolest cucumber in the whole joint right there. Did not react visibly the entire time, even as it came down to a playoff finish.
We're a fine sumo.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we knew he was a fan, but man, he had the good seats for that. I don't know who.
And the sunglasses on the entire time.
Where's the sunglasses tonight? Doki and Bushi, that was all very quick. Doki got Bushi real fast with the Jorge Rivera special roll-up. And that left us to Doki and Hiromu. Go figure. This was exciting, good series of cradles, but it went to a 10-minute draw because we don't want anyone important to do jobs until we get down to the last 2, Uemura and Tsuji, because they had something in mind for this one. And Scott, I'll throw this to you right here. As this has gone on, this Tsuji Uemura feud to me has more steam on it than Naito and Sonata does. I think
correct.
Yeah, it just feels fresher. It feels more exciting, doesn't it?
As it should, though. Their beautiful locks are on the line.
Woo. Well, I know.
Yeah, that's more for the world title. If I had that head of hair, come on now.
It feels both short term and long term more important than the IWGP title right now. And I don't know why that is, but I care way more about this hair match than I do about the title
I think seriously, no one on this podcast or show or whatever you want to call this thing, no one on Speaking of Strong Style of the three of us believes for one solitary second that Naito is in an ounce of danger here, right? With Sonata,
Right.
If it was possible to have negative danger, he would.
Yeah. So there's no heat. We know what's going on here. First of all, he's not going to lose. They've talked about the Mazda Stadium show too many times now, publicly, for it not to happen, and for Naito not to have a match in Hiroshima at the stadium and all that. We know Sonata's not winning this thing, so it has no steam on it, and this has steam. So they wrestled. It was terrific when they're in there with each other. They really work well together. I like that Hikuleo on commentary talked about. Said some interesting things because he was in the dojo at the same time these two were. And he said that Uemura was very by the books and followed all the instructions and did everything. And Tsuji was more mischievous. He would find little back doors and ways to skirt the rules a little bit. And it helped with the story there. It's probably also true.
You can just tell by the looks on their faces. That's true.
Yeah.
I know. Tsuji does look like he just got away with something you don't know about. That's what his entire face looks like. You know, like I don't know what this guy did, but he got away with something and I'm not aware of it. But yeah, and also afterwards, anyway, they had a long Boston Crab spot with Uemura fighting it. I'm gotta figure out a way to pronounce his name consistently correctly. Uemura got out and used an armbar again, which he got the finish with the day before, but Tsuji used a roll up to break it up, came out of that, hit the big spear and won it. Afterwards, Tsuji says he wanted a hair versus hair match. He says parity is useless. We could go back beating each other in 6-man tags, or 8-man tags, or all we want in the 1,000 meetings between these two things. But it needs to end now. And the only way to do that is with take away something that means everything to one of the two. So hair versus hair coming up in Sapporo. New Japan also seems to be putting a pin in the newer guys fighting one another. Shota has moved on from Narita. Tsuji and Uemura are about to wrap this up for now, of course. They'll be generational rivals. But Tsuji even vowed to challenge for the world title afterwards, which makes me think he's losing the match. He's losing his hair. But maybe this is New Japan's way of moving them away from one another and perhaps toward each of the four in some way being put over by someone else. So instead of the parity and beating each other back and forth, might be time for these guys to start moving up the card and facing other people that can put them over. That's kind of where I think they might be going with this. Is like, well, we can't build all these guys up if they keep beating one another. So let's put a pin in it for now, wrap these things up, and send them in different directions. Am I reading that right, you think?
Scott, you got any thoughts?
I think you're right. Though I don't think I want to see Tsuji without his hair. I think Uemura will look a lot better with the shaved head.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Oh my God! You cannot cut off Yuya's hair.
I like Yuya's hair when it's a little shorter. So
that voluminous, you get lost in that forest of hair.
That's why I think he's cutting it, because
like,
they probably called him like, "Hey."
I looked at Yota Tsuji's hair and I was like, God, that's got to be annoying to have to wet and dry all the time. That thing's coming off.
I think Jeremy might need to be alone for a moment here. Are you okay?
Wow. Man.
He'd be scary bald.
You really... I thought Yota Tsuji was losing this match. I thought
Yota Tsuji can't lose again, though. He loses all the time.
He does. I know.
There is an end game here that I think at Wrestle Kingdom, each one of these four are going to have a match against like an established legacy guy that's had like never open weight title at the lowest like reign of theirs. Maybe all IWGP title holders or greater. Like I think all four guys are going to have like that stepping stone major victory by Wrestle Kingdom.
Chris Sampson mentioned when we were doing the Wrestle Kingdom preview that he felt that the winner of the Tsuji Uemura match might pull an Okada and come out and challenge for the world title after either a dash or whatever. This kind of feels like that might happen now. Like this, like the winner of Tsuji Uemura might just come out after Naito wins and step up. That
you could pull it off for the anniversary show.
Yeah, they do need something for the anniversary show. Yeah, and that's March 6th, by the way, so it's not far away. And that kind of feels like you could do it, and it's a good place for it. Again, you're setting up whoever wins to then lose. So, but still, because Naito's
unless they win.
But they wouldn't have mentioned that Mazda Stadium show, man.
Unless it's a rematch. I don't even know when that is.
They haven't announced. That's just it.
Oh,
they keep saying they're going
talking about it. That's
they
crazy.
but it's being talked about in a way that it hasn't been announced, but it's planned. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Speaking of announced but not really planned, we never really touched on the fact that Stardom has a show on WrestleMania weekend, and we still have an unannounced, unplanned, historic Stardom It's Over 2 show sometime coming this year.
A little bit. I don't even.
You left him speechless. That was a good job,
Scott. Do you even have the emotional capacity to try to figure out what the hell's going to go on WrestleMania weekend with that company at this point? Me neither. There's so much. They can't possibly have any clue. They don't even know what they're doing at Korakuen next week.
No, they don't.
And I'm not trying to be insulting, but I honestly think that is so far.
Don't know what they're doing at Korakuen next week. They have back-to-back Korakuen Hall shows, and they don't have anything announced for either one.
Yeah. We got to list up John B. Sale.
To Jeremy, the company doesn't have much of a choice if they want to sell Woe for the Dome without Okada right there. And oh man, Tyler with a hot take here. He says maybe Doki will take the hair.
No, you stop it with that.
Yeah, that would be worse than either. That would be worse than either one of them.
Stop it with that, Tyler.
I think they should separate the 4 guys until the G1, according to Dunstan there. And
with half the G1. Like put each one of them in a different bracket.
But yeah, there you go. So anyway, that was the way. So we're gonna have hair versus hair right there, and then who knows after that? Some news and notes after that. Satoshi Kojima is the new MLW champion. We've mentioned it a little before. He beat Alex Kane at Super Fight event, but he also injured his MCL, and he's been taken off both this coming weekend's shows and the Fantastica Mania.
I watched that match.
What'd you think?
It was fine. I don't really care for the MLW product. It reminds me a lot of NXT without the NXT pedigree or kind of pageantry. Alex Kane reminded me of a young Big E trying to wrestle like Claudio Castagnoli and not doing a particularly good job of it, but trying nonetheless. This match and the Yuji Nagata Jacob Fatu match, I think the Jacob Fatu match and Nagata was better than this one, but there was a lot of surprise, like putting a New Japan guy with the new agreement with MLW front and center seems like a great plan. Unfortunately, Kojima got hurt, and we are there now. But Nagata came out with beers to celebrate after the show. It was kind of adorable, and it's on New Japan World if you want to watch these matches. I don't think you have to if you don't want to.
How was Nagata and Jacob Fatu good today? I mean, we know Fatu's.
I thought it was better than Kojima and Alex Kane.
Okay. So with that in mind, by the way, I don't know if you know this. This is Kojima's second run with the MLW title. Do you know that?
They talked about it. It was 22 years. And do you know who he beat?
Yes,
or
I
who
do.
Beat him for the title the first time around?
I can answer both of those. So Shane Douglas won the original tournament and threw the belt down, where they just decided to do the repeat of the NWA ECW double cross thing. That was a work though. And then so officially he is the first MLW champion because he defeated Jerry Lynn September 26, 2002 to become the first champion, quote unquote. And then he held it until June of 2003. He lost it to Mike Awesome.
Mike Awesome.
Kojima is in all Japan.
You know what? Mike Awesome's where I'm going to leave.
We ran him off.
Joining us. We will be on. We'll be on for a few minutes longer. You're going to be on tomorrow. Are you going live or are you recording?
I am recording because it's going to be long. It's going to be timeline, questions, everything we possibly know. Hopefully an observer update because I know the newsletter will be out tomorrow morning. So kind of.
You can find that on the 5-Star Joshi Show.
Yes, that will be up. I'm going to guess Saturday morning for anyone that's interested. Also putting something up on YouTube. So sorry, Jeremy. I got to put a timeline up. I got to get some views,
I hear you, man. There's an audience that you have to cater to.
Yes, but thank you for having me.
Thank you for showing up.
Fantastica Mania is going to rock.
It really will. We're going to get to that a little bit later. Scott, again, we really appreciate your time. And again, if you need to know anything on Stardom or the whole world of Joshi Pro Wrestling, Scott Edwards is the best in the English language about it. I can't say enough about what he does, both of his podcasts.
And we have him on speed dial. It's kind of cool.
It's awesome.
True.
So again, Scott, take care of yourself. Good luck to you. Try to get some sleep at some point in your life.
I'm planning to tonight. Enjoy your weekends, guys. See ya.
Take care,
Take care, Scott. Bye.
Go Niners.
Snuck that in the end.
I did. He had that LA hat on. I had to get it at him.
I know, and he's in Boston. I don't know.
Yeah, we're the
he's sending a
hat.
lot of
I'm
mixed
like,
signals. Sending a lot of mixed
I don't know
signals.
about that one.
By the way, Colin, if you're still watching, congratulations on Rangers top of the table with Celtic. So that's a big one.
Colin, I hope you got the closed captioning on. I know you can't hear anything right now.
It's true. All right. So new beginning in Osaka. Let's run down this card because I'll say one thing for New Japan is that as we have gotten toward these events in Osaka and Sapporo, they keep adding things.
We have to throw one match on there before we preview this. Can you believe this? Hold on.
Oh yeah, Orange Cassidy and Ishii. I thought I know that AEW doesn't hold tight to all these things, but I thought that the Best Friends and Cassidy were in chaos.
They are, but I feel like this just had something to do with like, hey, we got kind of a weak card, and you got Danielson. You don't really have any plans for Ishii. Oh wait, you do have plans for Ishii. Can you cancel those plans and can we have him on our show? And that's basically what happened.
So on Saturday, February 10th, AEW Collision, Orange Cassidy defending against Tomohiro Ishii. It'll probably be fun to watch.
It'll be a great match. I just in all honesty, I don't really want to see Ishii losing to much at anybody, even in a title match. This feels like the equivalent of like a never open weight title challenge. That's kind of the level I feel like Orange Cassidy's international championship is at. It's going to be a fun match. This is pure fan service. It's a lot of what Tony's been doing lately on AEW, and they've been great matches. But I don't know. I just kind of like it better when Ishii on the New Japan shows.
So speaking of New Japan shows, new beginning in Osaka, Sunday, February 11th, Edion Arena. It's packed out. I don't think you can get in anymore. I think the tickets are gone, even the little single scattereds. First half of this card seems to be more about setting up this two shows coming up in Sapporo on the 23rd and 24th. The second half is a super card. So this is very exciting. We are going to go live Monday, not Super Bowl Sunday. We know better than that. And we seed the internet to the National Football League. On
we
that
read the room.
We're reading the room. But on Monday, so we don't have to wait till next Thursday to talk about it. It'll be Monday at our usual time, 5:30 Eastern, and we will discuss this card, new beginning in Osaka. So it'll begin with Yo and Yano against Bolton and Taguchi, which is again another one. Like, who's going to take the fall in this one? I'm very curious to see. You think Taguchi is going to be?
I think it's Taguchi.
Again, man, they're just
going to be protecting Bolton Oleg until the end of time.
Well, I'm curious to see how this goes. I really feel like if a new faction is created, he should be the guy they pull up and say, "You're the future guy." After that, we have
in the cup. Do you put him in the New Japan Cup?
Maybe. Maybe.
And then just have him have like a win on the first round, an upset win against somebody.
Yeah, one or two, maybe. We could do that. Bishamon against Callum Newman and the Great Okan will be after that one. Again,
Okan back.
What's that?
Hiroki Goto's back.
Yep. Hiroki Goto is back. So we'll have Bishamon back against Newman and Okan. Again, Okan not in the cage match. And we've discussed that he talked a little bit of life after UE if it came to that. We also have Tiger Mask, Honma, Desperado, and Umino against the House of Torture. So this is all a preview for Evil and Umino, their never open weight title match that'll be coming up. And also, I'm curious about this, Jerry. Show and Desperado is a special challenge match for now in Sapporo.
Yes.
Show has stolen Desperado's mask, unmasked him, and Desperado had to cover up and all that stuff. I think there's a possibility we could have an angle alert here where either he gets the mask again or does something to piss Desperado off enough that he puts the title on the line in Sapporo. You think
probably
that way? Yeah.
It's either that or the special challenge match leads to Desperado losing and then the title put on the line afterwards. I think one of those two outcomes is pretty likely.
After that, we have LIJ versus Just Five Guys for the 906th time by our count. Look for them to highlight individual matchups ahead of that series of singles matches in Sapporo. So I think we'll probably have a good helping of Hiromu and Doki. Certainly a little bit of Naito and Sonata. Certainly some Shingo and Taichi in there. So we'll see those little pairings in that one. And then, of course, the big one, Okada, Tanahashi for the final time in a New Japan ring for now. Who knows what the future holds. But Okada Tanahashi, one of New Japan's all-time classic matchups for the last time, will take place in Osaka. And what are your thoughts on this one, Jeremy, as we go into this match? It's headlined Wrestle Kingdoms. It's been one of the underlying...
I've seen this match live.
Me too. And me too. I saw it at a G1, and you never get tired of it.
No.
What are your thoughts that this is going to be the last time, probably for a few years at the very least?
I think this is the last time. I think Father Time is ticking down on Hiroshi Tanahashi. In ring time. Maybe there's one more, but even the level of what we are accustomed to between the two, like this is Father Time ticking down, and this is going to be a special match. Like I can't even like look you in the eye and say this is going to be like I'm going to be disappointed in some way in this match. Like there's too much energy. There's too much, like there's no one in that building that will allow this match to fail, if that makes any sense.
Dunson says it feels like New Japan stacking up the important shows to sell the most tickets. I think that's literally exactly what's happening. I think that is exactly what is going on.
There's going to be no other time that New Japan is going to be this hot with the news of Okada leaving and having as much attention. And they're striking while the iron is hot. I give Tanahashi all the credit in the world for upping the ante on these shows and making it so that we have a 1, 2, 3 punch of shows that are like, oh, and they're adding what? It's a little bit more. And the little bit more is putting these shows over the top.
Colin says, I guarantee as it gets near the finish that Tana starts crying. Oh, that's yeah, boy. I would take that bet.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Like, I love you. I know.
Oh, and Colin also informs me that Celtic won a midweek game last week to go top again. So, okay. Well, the Rangers are second, but they're right in there with the
sure.
I know that this is all a word salad to you, Jeremy. Rangers and Celtic is one of the great rivalries in world football. So it's not only is it one of the great rivalries, but they are currently battling for the championship in the Scottish Premier League. It's always so.
Bro, I'm catching up on my Paramount Plus Star Trek, and I just saw Brave New Worlds and a Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks crossover that made me very happy. And I know I'm speaking word salad to you, and I say thank you.
All right. Well, after that, we have the IWGP World Tag Team titles. That's El Fantasmo and Hikuleo defending against Kenta and Chase Owens. Please, Ghetto, I'm begging you. I'll do whatever you want. Don't change the titles here. And hopefully it's a better match. Like I said, ELP not sick this time, and it's a little bit better. But for the love of God, this isn't the time to change.
You know what I think of when I see Kenta and Chase Owens?
I'm looking forward to Kenta's post-match comments more than seeing him wrestle.
No, that you're looking at the potential 101st IWGP Tag Team Champion.
Do you think they're going to switch it?
What's that?
You don't think they're going to switch it, do you?
No. I mean, you think about the fact that Kenta and Chase Owens are going to be the 101st. No, it's not happening. Come on.
I'll tell you what, Colin, if that's the finish, I'll cry, let alone Tanahashi. That's a
Mega Thunder Kiss. We'll destroy Hikuleo's knees before we get to the end of the year.
Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson is after that. That's the shut up and take my money match. The intrigue is, will Zack tap Danielson? And here's my thought on this one, Jeremy. If Danielson wins, it's good news because I think that means he's going to be in more New Japan shows going forward. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm reading the tea leaves there. If Zack does indeed tap out Danielson here, then it might be the launch to get Zack up to the top guy Jin level. So either way, I think I'm going to be really happy at the end of this because it's either like, okay, now we're on the Zack Sabre Jr. train for sure. If Danielson wins, then maybe we'll get something in Dominion.
I just thought about not or Dominion. Both. What if they do the rubber match at Windy City?
Oh yeah, I mean, look, if it
they've already got Moxley off that AEW show that night to do the Windy City, so why don't we just bring Danielson on?
So again, if Zack wins, it means that they're really going with Zack, which they should. Yes. And that should happen anyway, even if he loses down the road, just not here. But if he taps Danielson, then we know for sure it's happening pretty soon. If Danielson wins, means we get more Danielson. So I think we're all going to come out ahead on
this. This is called a win-win.
Yeah. Steel cage match comes after that. Now, we know that this is going to be fought under the War Games style rules. So 2 guys start, and then War Dogs have the advantage, which they're booking it correctly. Heels have the advantage where they get the number advantage, and it's alternating people coming in. And then the match cannot end until everybody's in. It's going to be a steel cage match. Again, I think Francesco Akira going to be the key player here as to how his psyche goes into this thing and where his head is. But in the end, it feels like this is the time to make David Finlay and the War Dogs into the badass bastards that they need to be if they're going to be taken seriously as the leaders of Bullet Club.
I'm very excited for this match. I think we're in agreement as to what needs to happen in this match. I think it's going to happen in this match, and I think they've done an excellent job of creating anticipation for this match going forward. I don't think you need to watch every show. I think if you dipped your toes in at any point and saw the build for this match, you'd be like, hell yeah, I'm into this. And we shall see come Sunday, Monday, just how much reaction there was to it.
Well, and of course, Will Ospreay's final match for now in New Japan. He's going to AEW, so there's going to be avenues for him to come back and work some of these things. But as far as being a consistent New Japan performer, it's the end for Will Ospreay, which would be there. And Dunstan has a nice thought before we get to that. He says, I hope we have a fresh team challenge for the tag belts like Grizzled Young Veterans or Oiwa Kento. I love the Grizzled Young Veterans. I think they're fantastic. I would love to see them in New Japan. So, but, you know, I think we will see a different team come up, but I don't know. We'll see what pans out there. But I would love to see a new team kind of come in and challenge, even if they don't win it. It'd be nice to get some fresh blood in that division.
Can you believe it? Fantastica Mania has snuck up on us.
It has, and it is starting on the 12th at the Prefectural Gym in Osaka. So they're staying in Osaka. They're doing the big show in Edion Arena on Sunday. On Monday, February 12th, they will move to the Prefectural Gym, which is in the same complex. So they're just that smaller building. You'll recognize it when you see it.
Can I tell you how funny I thought it was when AEW announced the CMLL talent, and then everyone was immediately like, "Oh man, what if they're just there all the way through Revolution, and they're gonna have this great run, and they're gonna set up this thing?" I'm like, I got bad news for you guys.
We get them a little bit in there too. So on the 12th, we will hear the highlights of the 12th. Now, the tour continues on, but the shows, there are a couple of shows that we're not going to see on New Japan World. So they stay in Osaka for that second day there at the Prefectural Gym, and then they go about the country a little bit, and then we will pick it up. Yeah, here it is. So there's another show in Osaka on the 13th and a show in Kagawa, and those won't be shown on New Japan World. We will get the show from the 12th. We'll pick it back up with the last 4 dates on the tour. That's the 16th in Nagoya, the 17th in Chiba, and then the 18th and 19th in Korakuen Hall back in Tokyo. So we get the 12th, then a few days off where they're still running Fantastica Mania, but we won't see a couple of shows, and then we get the last 4. On the 12th, which will happen before we reconvene here for Speaking of Strong Style, we will see, we'll find out in a preview tag if we get a second generation Kamaya-Tachi, or if it's just Hiromu under his old mask again. He is teaming with LIJ, so it's probably going to be Hiromu as Kamaya-Tachi again. We'll also see Templario, Atlantis Jr. and Volador Jr. against Soberano Jr., Rocky Romero, and Hechicero, which should be an exciting 6-man tag. And Tanahashi teaming with Mascara Dorada and Mystico against Francesco Akira on the Rudo side here, Stuka Jr. and Ultimo Guerrero, which should also be a real fun match. A lot of talent, Jeremy. My goodness. They're sending the H.
Trying to tell you something about Akira, and I refuse to take the bait.
We'll see what's happening there. And as I said, Tyler, he said, will Fantastica Mania be on World? Some of it will. 2 shows will not be, but the 12th will be. That's going to be Monday. And then 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, all will be. And that's a wraparound. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we will see the Fantastica Mania shows as they work their way back to Korakuen Hall in Tokyo. And no, Colin mentions this, no Dolce Gardenia this time. I don't think so. I don't think he's on the tour. Keep in mind, somebody has to be running the CMLL cards back. And that's the one thing I noticed here, Jeremy. We are getting a lot of heavy hitters. Mascara Dorada, Mystico, Atlantis Jr., Volador Jr., Templario. These are all Soberano Jr., Hechicero. These are some pretty major names. Somebody has to be back in Mexico headlining these shows. So I think it's going to be a big week for Dolce Gardenia, probably Templario,
probably.
And Zandakan and all that will probably move up the cards a little bit.
They'll get their big time in the sun.
Barbaro Cabernario, who's not on this tour and things, but this is not a lineup to be trifled with. And of course, we're going to get to see Okamura again, who one of those guys that went off to wrestle in Mexico for a while and never came back. Okamura just stayed in CMLL, but he comes back for Fantastica Mania every year.
All right, so we got a couple news and notes, then we're going to wrap this thing up.
Let's hear 'em.
All right, let's see what we got here. After David Finley, so this is the official announcement of the War Dogs of the Wargames. Mm-hmm. That was a confirmation, so that we were not, in fact, making that up. Then this is the hair versus hair match is announced for February 24th. You can look at both of those, all that glorious hair, and think, how could Yota Tsuji possibly defeat Yuya Uemura? We have the Mayu Iwatani Mina Shirakawa match for the February 23rd. We have Jack Perry, we have Ren Narita, we have Tomohiro Ishii, and we have the Gorillas of Destiny, all announced for Windy City Riot with more tickets on sale there.
And they opened up all of them now, like the full building.
Yeah.
And yes, we have a new team name, Youngblood. That is the new team in England. Oscar Loibe and Yuto Nakashima. The Yuto Nakashima interview that has been posted in the news section of NJPW1972.com. Must read. It's fabulous. I really recommend you go and reading that. And
eloquent and well spoken.
And like you said, a little sassy. I mean, he's definitely got some thoughts there. But yeah, Youngblood is the name of the team. Loibe and Nakashima doing the rare thing and going on excursion as a team together. It's been Show and Yo, I guess, were the last ones to do that.
So this is going to be an exciting. They left and they were starting to heat up, and I'm excited for Youngblood. I'm excited for what seems to be a clear package outside of New Japan and Rev Pro, where they're currently doing their excursion. And it was cool, man. I'm into it.
So yeah, a lot of big shows coming up. So next Monday. So on Monday, we will be back to talk about the New Beginning in Osaka show. And if I have a chance to go over the Fantastica Mania show for that day, I think I will. We'll be able to talk a little bit about that. So on February 12th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, we will wrap up the New Beginning in Osaka. Again, Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. We'll get out of the way for the Niners and the Chiefs on that one. And then next Thursday, we'll be back in our regular time, again, 5:30 Eastern. And we will be talking more about Fantastica Mania as we build up to the New Beginning in Sapporo shows. And, of course, the big thing in the Sapporo shows, still waiting to hear what they have in mind for Kazuchika Okada's final New Japan matches.
It could be Nakamura.
I know you're hoping it is. So anything else, of course, remember here on the YouTube channel, don't forget Power Bombshells, 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. They've got a big show coming up. And anything else to add, Jeremy, before we wrap this one up?
I am going to make it abundantly clear to everyone that the hair of my ass about Nakamura on the 24th or the 23rd, Steven Conway has just about anything to do with this one. He's just like, you're on your own on this one, guy. When it went up on YouTube, it was all me. He had nothing to do with it. And he's like, wow, you really think this Nakamura thing? I'm like, nope, I am full of shit. I have no idea what's going on.
WWE is very hot right now. I enjoy watching their shows. I enjoy what I'm seeing from those guys. I am deeply skeptical of them doing anything that helps anyone else without very selfish purposes being involved.
All I know is that when Nakamura lost a bull rope match, I didn't think he was going to be figured in to Elimination Chamber plans for the Raw main event. That's all I'm saying.
With that
Take
in mind,
what you will.
Thank you once again.
We went 10 extra minutes. Cool.
Thank you to everybody who watched us. Thank you for Scott Edwards for joining us and for your questions, for all the folks who watched us live, for everyone who's listening in later. We definitely appreciate that you have made us part of your week. Yeah. And with that in mind, we will sign off for now. Jeremy Finestone, I'm Steven Conway. We'll be back with Speaking of Strong Style Monday and Thursday next week. We'll talk to you again real soon.
I'm a Niners fan, so I might be in a real bad mood.
Or a good one.
Who knows? I could just be in a bad mood anyways.